Right, let's return now to the race to become the next leader of the Conservative Party and, of course, our next Prime Minister. I'm very pleased to say that joining me now is the Conservative MP, Sir Iain Duncan Smith, and former leader, of course, of the Conservative Party, who is backing Ms Truss. Are you the campaign manager?
Well, I'm helping oversee the campaign, but
essentially,
there are plenty of other people doing stuff.
Absolutely right. So, look, let's start with the cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
The guys are not going to get together. Ms Truss and Rishi Sunak are not going to get together at all. Why is that, and shouldn't they?
No, I don't think so. This is a contest to be the leader of the Conservative Party and then, obviously, the Prime Minister. One of those people is not in Cabinet. The other one is. It would be quite wrong, for example, of Liz, because of the campaign, to try and direct what the government is doing at the moment to suit herself. I don't know what they would achieve together by agreeing what.
Well, they might reassure people who are really anxious about their bills going up.
I think the government can reassure people that they're looking at it right now. The government is actually going through what the options are, where the problems exist, and we need to understand that. So there's a plan in place when we get to the point where we have a Prime Minister with options, should that need arise, and that's exactly where we are. And I think that's the important bit. The government has all the mechanisms. It has all of the enormous power of government to be able to look at this, to get the facts right, the figures right, and to look at the way they do it. I mean, I was critical of the we just had a £15 billion payout, which is gone, and we're still waiting for half of that to get through to people, you know.
And it's still not enough as well.
Well, we say it's not enough, but that's because things are shifting. So what we're saying is this money is already going out at the moment. Much has not landed in people's pockets. And I'm critical in the sense that I don't believe that we should have handed out money across the board to lots of people like you and me, where we're not in the same predicament as people on low income. So I would like to see, if we have to do this, much more targeted on people on low income, targeted support work as necessary. And that can be done by the government prior to the leadership election being completed.
Through something like universal credit, which you, of course, designed.
Yeah, I would like to see, it's a personal view, I'd like to see universal credit used more because it's the only system we have which targets whole households. It knows what the household income is, it knows, therefore, who really needs the money. So instead of spreading the money all the way up the chain to £400 to you and me, I think the reality is that, and this is what Ms Truss has been talking about, we want targeted support. If we have to do this, we have to look at the events of what's going on and see what the forecasts are and then make that decision.
Now, one of the criticisms and one of the reasons why people should get around the table now is that to get those increases in universal credit or whatever change we're going to make, whether it's a taper rate or an uplift, you need to start that process now. And if you don't start it now, you're not going to make it for October the 1st.
Well, the key thing is you have to get this right. You have to get it focused. If you try and rush this process, and I've been in government long enough to know, when things happen and people go, bang, we're going to have to sort this out, what happens is you waste a lot of money and you miss the targets you need to get to. That's why it's really important for government right now to do it. Ms Truss has been crystal clear from the beginning that should the need arise, she will do whatever is necessary. But right now, on a campaign, it's not feasible for two candidates to literally make up amounts of money on the back of an envelope. What she wants to do on day one, to start with, is to make sure that we reduce the burden of taxation. Because why? Right now, we face the potential of a recession. If you have a recession on top of this cost of living crisis, it will be an utter human disaster. We need to avoid recession at all costs in the course of this winter. We need to do something about that. That's where lower tax is important. But getting targeted help to people, she said she is certainly prepared to do and look at as and when the government...
And of course you'll know that there is a debate whether cutting taxes will stave off the recession, which the Bank of England says is coming. But let's stick with universal...
Well, of course it will, because let me just... Well, can I just explain something to you?
Quickly.
The Bank of England's forecasts now for recession are based on the highest level of tax that we've had in a generation. If we start to bring that down, their forecasts shift. All the independent economists show that the best way to stay stable is to be out of that recession forecast.
Well, if inflation increases as well, caused by those tax cuts...
Well, they're bringing interest rates in to get inflation down. By all means do that, but don't kill people's economics off and put them on the dollar.
Sir, you know that there are economists who can argue on the other side who will say that cutting taxes...
Not many independent economists disagree with most of them.
I mean, some of them do, but let's stick with universal credit. How long would it take for that money to go through to people?
Well, that's the key question, and that's why the government needs to look at that right now. And the key
immediately, because by October the 1st, the bills are going to go up. So will it be there by then?
Yeah, but the key things with benefit systems is you have to change things through legislation quickly. The question is how quickly can you do that to make changes to this process? And those are the key elements that have got to be looked at now by the government, which is why the government is right to be looking at it now in preparation for somebody that takes over, so they have instantaneous possibilities there that they can pull the levers and get things done.
You can't guarantee that the extra money will be there by the 1st of October?
Well, it depends what you're actually asking them to do. That's what the government's got to look at. All I'm saying to you is, in line with the urgency of the requirement and people's incomes, and those who most need it, that's the important point, The reality is the government has to find ways to make sure that that money gets to those targeted individuals. That's what the government needs to look at now, which is why, as I said earlier on, there's no point in two candidates meeting together to try and figure out what they would do. They're not in command of the details. The government is here to do that process.
The government's not doing anything because the government said they have to wait until the candidates come in.
No. The government has been working on this for weeks, by the way. I know because I talked to government ministers who have been working with their departments to do it. So they've been working for some time. What they're doing now is getting ready to make sure those decisions are able to be made. Should they need to be made, they will make those decisions on the basis of solid advice.
Argument well made, but I'll put it to you that the reassurance is not getting there for people. But I do want to move on.
Well, it's because, you know, at the end of it all, they're worried, and we have to make sure that they know that the government will step in where necessary.
I just want to bring something to your attention, this idea of conversion therapy. It's a policy that was put in place, pushed through by Ms Truss when she was Equalities Minister.
Yep.
This is what you had to say about conversion therapy just recently. This is Ms Truss's commitment to it.
Yes, I agree with that, by the way.
You do, because you said recently that when you start banning things, it's really
you're looking at a
problematic.
report of something that I said. I said, my personal opinion is that the bill itself, to deliver that, isn't in the right shape to deliver it. We have to get the balance right between what you do to try and sort people, quite rightly, to protect people who make decisions, but at the same time to make sure that you don't collide with the rights that people have to freedom of speech and things, and we've got to work that out. So this bill needs to be reworked, looked at again. That's my personal view. I agree with her, though, that the point of what we're trying to do is to get to a point where you can protect those who need that protection. That's important.
So Ms Truss will carry on with the bill to ban gay conversion therapy?
Well, right now it's suspended, and we need to look at that bill as to how we get that done.
You're not saying that she will carry on with it? I mean,
Ms Truss has made it very clear in that. She's in favour of it, quite rightly. But my point is, as I was saying, the bill itself, we need to make sure, delivers what we're after without the unintended consequences and knock-ons that go on. And that's important with legislation. You can't rush it to make sure it's done. So the objective, I completely agree with.
OK, let me talk to you quickly about the climate crisis. You'll know that many Conservative supporters want us to change our climate targets for 2050. Do you think that because of the situation we're in right now, we should push those targets back?
Well, I think what we've committed to is reaching those targets of 2050. They're very advanced. There's a lot that needs to be done, clearly. But the key point is we have to do it in a way that doesn't damage lives at the same time. So this is why Ms Truss has made it very clear that what she'll do is suspend that levy, that green levy on individuals. Cost about £153 for people to do that at a time when they are really short of money and they need help. That's one thing that you, I'm afraid, are going to have to deal with, and we suspend that for the moment whilst we make sure we tackle the cost of living crisis. We will return back to the process of making sure we achieve that 2050 target. That's what she is committed to, and that's what she wants to do. But what she wants to make sure is you don't do it on the backs of people who can't afford what you're actually making them pay, and that means their lives would change.
Sir Iain Duncan Smith, former leader of the Conservative Party, back with Ms Truss. I appreciate your time this morning, sir.